Hello, I'm Stephen Whitehead. I'm a consultant surgeon at the Conquest Hospital in Hastings. I'm going to show you a paraumbilical hernia. This hernia has some omentum in it, and you will see that to obtain reduction we have to excise some of the omentum so that you can close the sac and obtain a repair. You will see me develop a plane between the peritoneal and the underside of the abdominal wall, into which we will insert a little bit of mesh to give it a bit of reinforcement, and then the linear album will be closed transversely over the mesh to obtain a sound repair.
There's the hernia, as the umbilicus is up in there. We're going to make a curved incision below the umbilicus. I'm going to mark it out so that hopefully it'll be nice and neat at the end of the operation. Knife with a small blade to go around a tight radius curve. Try and keep the skin tense as you're doing this. Less on the upper leaf to free this hernia from the skin overlying it. Being careful not to buttonhole the skin as we do it. And it's important to get the hernia off the skin that's overlying it. And so you have to be careful because the skin's quite thin at that point. You need to work your way around this hernia, the palace on the lower flap. Just on there, just for a second. Once we've got it freed, then we can get some Langerbeck's inside. Right. First rule of surgery, if you're in difficulties, it's usually because you've got the incision too small, and I think I've got too small an incision here, so I'm going to have to extend it. Don't be afraid of doing that. There's no shame in it. It will get you out of trouble. And more importantly, it makes the operation a lot easier. Half the disasters occur in surgery because you're operating through too small an incision. Well, there we are, we've just extended it a centimetre or so on each side, and suddenly it's all sitting up in front of you. So we want to get down to the linear alba. There's the linear alba, fairly stretched at this point, and that's where the hernia is coming through the linear alba. It's quite a big defect. Almost round the back, but not quite. Now there we've got the hernia freed from the skin, and you can see it's coming through. It's about 2 fingers, 1.5 to 2 fingers in width, so it's quite a big one. Probably going to reinforce this with some mesh as well as some sutures. Now, what is this? This is probably omentum inside it. We're going to have to reduce the omentum before we repair it. So let's have a couple of clips. We'll open the sac, because some of the sac is rather redundant. 2 clips on the sac. We'll open the sac. You may well find that the omentum is adherent to the inside of the sac. can get into it. We'll see if we can reduce the momentum. The more you pull it out, the more difficult it is to get it back. I don't think it's going to go back, so we're going to have to resect some of this. And again. Clips again. So that's chair tight. Now, having trimmed down the momentum, let's see if we can push that back inside the abdomen. Oh, it's gone. There we are. Right. So the hernia has been reduced. The next thing to do is to free up, if we can, this sac of peritoneum from the linear alba, and if possible to try and create a plane underneath the linear alba between the peritoneum and the linear alba so that we can get a bit of mesh in. Right, so we've got a space between the linear alba, which is the, or rather stretched linear alba, and the peritoneum. There's the linear alba there, peritoneum, the rest of the sac, or linear alba sac. Now we've got a lot of redundant sac here, so we're going to be able to just cut some of this off. That's the remains of the sac. There's still a little bit of momentum. We'll just make certain that's parked back inside. Okay, back to cut, please. And I think we'll be able to reduce the hernia completely. These pop back inside. We've got the edges of the linear alba, which we're going to bring together transversely like that. But before we do that, we're going to lay some mesh underneath it just to reinforce it. So let's have a little bit of mesh, piece of square of mesh to go in there. Always use another bit. Put it under the upper leaf, we'll just park it under the lower leaf. We're going to bring those two bits together with the mesh underneath it. We've created a little pocket for the mesh, which I've done with my scissors. I've dissected out a pocket there. It's lying in the pocket. It's not going to go anywhere else. It's going to get stuck to the peritoneum and the underside of the muscles of the abdominal wall pretty quickly. It's not going to move around, so there's really no need to staple it or stitch it in place. You can if you want, but I don't think it's going to make any difference. Right, now some interrupted nylon stitches to bring these two edges together. So we can see what we're doing. If you've got a lot of loose tissue above and below, those flaps are very, very loose, then you can overlap them in the traditional Mayo repair. But here they're just coming together, just a slight bit of tension, I think, to do an overlapping repair here. They'll probably be under too much tension. It's probably not going to be worth it. There's our hernia repair. 4 nice nylon stitches, and it's reinforced underneath with some mesh. Now, we've dissected out the skin of the umbilical cicatrix. There's the umbilicus there. It'd be nice if we can just push it back so she's got a nice inverted umbilicus. And I'm going to take a little stitch on the underside of the umbilical cicatrix and stick it down to close to where our repair is. You sometimes have to experiment with this to get it in the right place. And just pick up some of the loose tissue on the underside of the umbilical cicatrix. Being careful not to go right the way through the skin. We'll just check that we haven't gone through the skin. No, we haven't. And stick that down in there. That's back where it should be. I think we can settle for that. If it doesn't look right, then you just undo the stitch and have another go. A few interrupted micro stitches into the subcutaneous space. And then put some continuous subcuticular stitches in. Hold it all together. Pop a little bit of